the details just emerging this morning, the deal now given to Hamas. From your perspective, looking at it, does it look like one that might engineer a ceasefire?
Well, good morning, Rosie. Yeah, I think it's an opening stance. I think the key date we have to have in mind here is the 10th of March, which is the beginning of Ramadan. And I suspect the Israelis will want to achieve as much as possible before Ramadan in operational terms to destroy Hamas before they agree to a ceasefire. So I don't expect a ceasefire, even if it's agreed in the next few days, to be put into place for quite some time yet. I think the Israelis will want to obviously clear out as much of the civilian population as possible, but I don't think we should doubt the Israelis' resolve to destroy Hamas as soon as possible. And as I said before, 10th of March, when it gets obviously a bit sticky during Ramadan.
Chris, delighted to have you on without your ice cream. The leader of the free world announcing a potential ceasefire whilst licking a vanilla cone. Extraordinary.
I think he thought it was a microphone.
Unbelievable, man. Can I just bring up something that we discussed with Jotam Kofino last hour? He made a point about how each side will politicise it and will put spin on it. The worrying point is, and by the way, just before people jump up and down, I think the entire world, looking at the humanitarian disaster, wants a ceasefire. But on the one hand, you've got Benjamin Netanyahu, who, with respect, has said, this ain't finishing until I'm ready to finish it. I want to wipe out this terrorist cell. And on the other hand, if we're being balanced, we've had Hamas who have made absolutely clear they're not giving up. They don't want a ceasefire. So whilst it's all very good to hear and important, and we'll get the 500 trucks in and the hostages out and 10 to 1, I sort of share your cynicism, because Netanyahu is saying one thing, Hamas is saying another, and apparently everybody's running around saying, let's have peace. I'm not sure, is it realistic or am I being cynical?
No, Jeremy, one of the things that I've been pretty sceptical about right from the start is that everybody wants a ceasefire except the two combatants. And every time we hear talk of a ceasefire, the Israelis either push ahead or indeed Hamas or the Palestinians start taking aggressive action with their rockets or with a terrorist action. It seems to me that, the same rules need to apply in Israel and Gaza as they do in Ukraine. We've always said, if there's going to be resolution in Ukraine, it's up to the Ukrainians. It's not up to us, to tell you the truth. Now, I do accept that, we need actually to play the part of an honest broker here in the rest of the world. But can you find any honest brokers? That's the point. And my experience of dealing with disputes in the Middle East, it's rather like trying to separate two dogs. All you come away with is scratches and fleas. And to tell you the truth, until the Israelis are able to release their hostages, to get justice for the victims of 7th of October and secure the conditions for a lasting peace, they're not going to be really interested in any ceasefire.
What does a lasting peace actually look like in practice?
Great question.
Well, if we had the answers to that, Rosie, then I think we'd be probably winning the Nobel Peace Prize this year. The fact of life is that this has got a long way to play out yet. Hamas definitely has to be removed from Gaza. I suspect the Palestinian Authority will be brought back in to run Gaza under Israeli control once the fighting is over. And of course, there's got to be some agreement about how Palestinians and Israelis share that bit of land that has been fought over for the last 2,000 years.
But Chris, that's the point, isn't it? There wasn't a person, I think, in the United Kingdom who, when they saw what happened on October the 7th, didn't understand Israel's right to go after this terrorist cell. What's happened to Jews around the world is a different subject. But hold on a second. Every single politician I know, unless I'm missing the point, and most commentators believed that the two-state solution was the answer. But Netanyahu's changed the game over the last few weeks and months and now doesn't even acknowledge that there should be a two-state solution. That's what he said. And that's, of course, riled the other side. And as you go, I mean, I think Rosie's question is absolutely right. It's all well and good to say I want rid of Hamas. It's all well and good to say I want retribution. I understand all that. I support that. It's how you get there, but it's not just how you get there. It's what happens in the end. The Palestinian people aren't going to live under Israeli rule. If you listen to Netanyahu, he doesn't want a two-state solution. You look at it and you go, where does the world go on this? You can sit and have conversations. What's the reality?
Jeremy, I think, it's very interesting. After our English Civil War, there was an act of oblivion which said anything that happened before 1642 we're going to forget about because it's just too difficult. I think there's got to be a similar sort of thing here in the Levant. The fact of life is the Palestinians in the West Bank were thriving in a sort of model two-state solution that wasn't formal, but the economy was thriving. Gaza was a permanent threat to Israel. As long as Israel thinks its borders can be penetrated again by a sizable military force that can do the sort of damage that it did on 7th of October, they're not going to feel secure. You can detect also across the region that people think that Israel is vulnerable. As long as that is the case, and Israel can't be made to feel secure and safe, you're going to have these tensions. I personally believe, in fact, I came on here, I think I said after 7th of October, that this put the two-state solution into real jeopardy because there's no way that the Israelis can live next door to a sovereign state that can inflict that amount of damage potentially on Israel itself. So the answer, Rosie, to your question is make Israel feel safe and secure, and everything else starts to sort of form around that.
Just finally, Chris, as sort of details of this deal emerge and both sides look at them, you know, Israel's planned sort of offensive in Rafah, is that still, is that on pause? Is that going to happen? What do you know?
Yeah, well, I don't know, but I suspect if I were an Israeli, and I'm talking as Israeli, not as a Brit, I want to wrap this operation up before the 10th of March, and I will stall until I can do that. And when we get Ramadan, there will be possibly a ceasefire.
This just in, Chris, we'll share this with you. Hamas officials tell Reuters Biden's comments on halt to Gaza fighting are premature and they do not match the situation on the ground. A Hamas official has just said there are still big gaps that need to be bridged before a ceasefire. There you are.
There you are. Well, yeah, I hate to say it, but I think what I've just said to you is probably going to happen. As I said, watch out for March the 10th. I think that is the date when we might expect things to go forward.
Chris Parry, as ever, a great pleasure to have you on Talk Today.